Hey, Anthony here, and welcome to the Solopreneur Show.
Welcome to the Solopreneur Show with your host, Anthony Tilley. To get your hands on more great business training and advice, plus the chance to join our free Facebook group where you will see extended guest interviews and behind-the-scenes access to Anthony, go to www.thesolopreneurshow.com and join us today. And here's your host, the man himself, Mr. Anthony Tilley.
Hey, Anthony here, and welcome to today's episode. It's Thursday, which means it's expert interview day, and we have a top-notch guest for you today. It's Mr. Igor Kheifets. Now, Igor and I have known each other for about 7 years now. We've been business partners. We've done a couple of coaching programs together, and we've met each other a few times as well. He's come over here to the UK, and I've always made the effort to go and see him and hang out with him. And the interview that we do here, it really did end up going completely different direction to what I'd expected, because it was a conversation. We just had a chat. That's pretty much what it boiled down to. And we reveal so much in this interview. If you are looking to build a business that you want to make stand out from the rest, this is the interview you need to listen to. So I think without further ado, I'll just let it roll. Check out this amazing interview, amazing guest, Mr. Igor Kheifets. Okay, so I'm joined today, as I say, by a good friend of mine, Mr. Igor Kheifets. And Igor is a list builder, email marketer, and most recently, very, very successful podcaster. And Igor, great to have you on the show.
Well, great to be here, especially after such a long time. You know, we haven't done anything together for years, and it feels like very nostalgic experience.
It's been a while. And I just so you know as well, I'm flying the flag for your podcast. So thank you very much.
All right.
For the
You're
mug.
Loving the list building lifestyle.
I am loving the list building lifestyle. I'm loving the podcasting lifestyle. Actually, it's brilliant. It's actually probably the best thing I've ever done in my business. Really, really enjoying it.
Nice.
So, as you know, as an avid fan, obviously, of the Solopreneur Show, as you know, that we get people's backstories. I love to hear where they came from, what sort of inspired them to be the person they are. So, I know your story very well, but so I can correct you on some bits if you're wrong.
All right, cool. If I make some stuff up, make sure to bring me back to earth. Well, my story, it's interesting. I get this question a lot. And I spoke about this many times in our podcast too, but it's a lot of it is about it being driven by pain and the negative stuff. You know how a lot of people, as they get into the make money online or sort of build yourself the lifestyle, the 4-hour work week thing, they see the work week, right? They see the beach and the margaritas and the palm trees and stuff. Well, I never saw that. All I saw was the escape hatch out of poverty. That's all I wanted to see, because my family immigrated to Israel when I was just turning 12, and we came with about $1,000. That's all my parents had. We had relatives over here. That's why we came here. But we definitely had to leave Ukraine ASAP because the situation was getting really bad. My dad made a few bad investments. He owed money to a bunch of bad people. I remember the last thing I remember from Ukraine is actually him selling the car. We had a 2.3 diesel Ford Sierra. It was like this dark red car, very beautiful car. I loved it. It was a station. And so he sold the car and he sold the apartment we lived in, and he just gave all the money for the debt he owed to this gangster dude, which, I mean, he was a cool gangster. He wasn't picking on regular people, but he was a gangster nevertheless. And you kind of had to be friends with gangsters if you wanted to do business in Ukraine back in the day, in the 90s, because, I mean, it was a dangerous time, really. And so we came to Israel, and that sort of put us on a path of just a really dark path. A path of about 10 years where all we did is we went from one setback to another, and it all started about 6 months into our presence in Israel, when my dad suffered another heart attack. He had two back in Ukraine, so it was a third one, and he was rushed into an open heart surgery. So they had to pull a vein, or like a thing where the blood vessel out of his foot, and place in his heart, was the vessel that's right in his heart, just about to snap. And so that put him on a bed for 2 years. Now, you have to imagine that basically he can't work, right? I'm too young to work. And my mom, I mean, she works for minimum wage at a factory. So that sort of like put us in a really deep debt. And it just, downward spiral from there. Family problems. I've seen my parents fight over money a lot. And so I grew up in this environment where I was really money conscious, but more so negative money conscious, if you will.
Yeah.
And so obviously, just like any other kid, in our neighborhood, in our town here, and probably over there too in Wales, or any other part of the world, I was told that, okay, so we are poor. Okay, well, I mean, my parents didn't call themselves poor, but I knew we didn't have the money, because anytime I would ask for something, I would get the excuse. But they said, look, you have to study hard, right? And you study hard and you get a good job, and you will save us. I was supposed to be the Superman that, saves everybody. And for a while, I believed that. And I went to school and I got good grades. I was focused on my studies. The two things really that I was focused on is to study well and video games. That was me. That's what I was all about, until one day I was having an argument with a friend. And this friend of mine, he wasn't studying well. And I said, you're not going to succeed in life because you don't study well. And he said, well, but you're wrong, because most people who are rich, they don't study well. I mean, they don't need to do that. They drop out of high school and stuff. I'm like, what? I mean, to me, that was such a huge paradigm shift, because it didn't make any sense. So because if you're rich, you're supposed to be smart, and to be smart, you're supposed to study well, right? And he says, well, I'll give you a book and you can read it. And that was the very first book I read. It was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it completely blew my mind. It's like, oh my God, rich people are rich not because they study hard. It's because they think differently, they act differently, and they know things about money that poor people don't know. And the interesting part is that the moment I read it, the one thing that a kid can do, and I was only 18, I think, at the time, I rushed to my father and I showed him the book. It's like, look, this is it. And neither him nor mom, they didn't believe. Like, they just said it was bullshit. And that was the first time I started rebelling against my parents. My grades dropped, but I focused on what could I do to get rich. And about a year later, I think, I got into a online network marketing opportunity called Global Domains International. It was just a $10 per month opportunity. That was all I could afford. But obviously I sucked at it. I did not recruit a single soul besides my best friend who gave me the book, who ended up actually leaving the opportunity the next day. And I now understand why he did that, but back in the day, Anyway, point being is that's how I got into the online marketing game. Eventually I made a transition to information marketing, eventually made a transition to traffic generation, and now we run one of the largest solo ad traffic agencies, I think, in the industry, if not in the world.
Cool. That's and I know obviously you've given us the potted version there. I know sort of from us knowing each other for a number of years, so many sort of different twists and turns, etc. along the way for you. But it's an interesting thing. I had Chris Payne on the show a little while ago. I know you've been sort of connecting with Chris, and it's interesting. He told me a story about pain and how basically people find that they will sit and there's lots of inertia and there's lots of I want this, I want that, but it's only when the pain really reaches that absolute breaking point do they then actually take that action. Obviously for you, as you said, it wasn't the pina coladas on a beach, it was actually the pain of the issues you had with the family.
The one thing that I noticed after working with a bunch of people, and you and me, we ran a coaching program, and we've seen this firsthand. It's most people, they want it, right? They say they want it, and they genuinely want it, whatever it is, more money, the freedom. but they kind of want it only if someone would come in and hand it over to them, right? They don't want the pain they have to go through to get it.
Yeah.
And incidentally, I was willing to suffer through the pain because I came from a really painful background. I guess in Ukraine, it's a really tough place to grow up. I mean, you say one word, in some incorrect way to some incorrect person, you get your teeth, kicked in. I mean, the one of the first things I remember that my dad taught me was, before you say anything, think, because he knew that you could say don't think to the wrong person, and you could get in trouble for that. And so, not to mention, of course, that most people in our surroundings were pretty poor. And when I say poor, today poor in the Western world, right? It's not the same poor as the kind of poor that I used to see back when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Because today's poor have cell phones, they have TVs, they have PlayStations, they, you know what I mean? Like they have stuff, and they have food in the fridge too. But, in Ukraine, poor meant no food in the fridge, no TV, no PlayStation, cell phones, forget about it. Car, no, that's a luxury. Today car is just something, it's a necessity. Back in the day, it's only a luxury that was available to rich people. So I'm telling you, this is a different environment that I came from. And I believe in many ways, this immigrant edge, if you will, helped me succeed because I was going through the pain. I was pain focused, and in many ways I still am. I try to get rid of it now, but I realize in many ways I am still pain focused, because anytime, and you mentioned inertia and procrastination, which is a huge enemy for anyone who's trying to build a business. Mm-hmm. Anytime I'm stuck in that inertia, I hope I pronounce this word right, so weird word. The one thing I have to do is just sit down and come up with 10 reasons that if I don't act now, how my life is going to change in a bad way. And I can come up with 10 reasons like this, and the next minute I'm doing something to move forward with my goals. Yeah. I kid you not. The pain is so incredibly motivating that you have to almost make friends with it and invite it into your life, knowing that it will spark the changes you want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a big sort of, you can almost draw sort of a great big line, I think, for the people that are successful at either it's this end, they want it so badly, they really are desperate, and it's that towards kind of sort of mentality. Or say right at the other end, you've got this percentage here that's the running away from. And then in between, there's the great big gap of people sort of saying, well, I don't really like where I am. I'd like to do this, but I'm not really that motivated to do it. And that's the thing, isn't it? So yeah, I think you've got to be one end of the spectrum or other in terms of the mindset, et cetera. As you said, and obviously Rich Dad changed everything for you with regards to that. So
yeah.
Coming forward now, obviously you've got the solo as agency, the traffic agency, etc. And again, you and I have been in that business for a long while. I've sort of stepped away from it in the last few months. And what I really, I did the same thing, and I hold my hands up. I didn't do it as successfully as you did, but what we both did was we took our business to the next level. And this is what really is an interesting thing that I'd like sort of to talk a little bit about. Because a lot of people online, they have a business and it's all very much run of the mill. It's all, middle sort of ground, etc. They do the same kind of things as everybody else.
It's vanilla. Vanilla.
Yeah. Whereas ours was mint chocolate chip. So it's Dan Kennedy is a big sort of advocate of this, sort of marketing to the rich and that kind of thing, and basically putting your business to that next level where you give such great service and you do something so different from anybody else within business. And I think for a lot of people who are watching or listening to this, I think that there's a real key learner there for people in business to try and set themselves apart from the run of the mill. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, and the deeper we go into this economy right now, where everybody's influenced by social media and the exposure is so vast and the industries get disrupted by companies like Uber and Airbnb, the more outrageous you have to become if you want to stand out, even at the local level. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that just doing your thing, just kind of offering a service isn't enough anymore. Those days are over. You can't just offer a service and expect people to come into your shop. You have to be outrageous in many ways to attract the consumer, because the consumer is being hit with thousands of messages each and every single day on their phone, on their TV, walking down the street. I mean, I've been to London recently, and you walk down a neighborhood, like just we were traveling and we used the underground to travel from the main train station, one of the big ones, to one of the further ones in the some really deep part of London. It was a horrible trip, but we walked out of the underground station, and it's just a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But even then, it's like everywhere you look is billboards and billboards and billboards, and there's several options for each and every category. Restaurants, tons of those. Shops, tons of those. Cell phone stuff, tons of those as well. So you have to be outrageous. You have to kind of see the line, right, and cross that line, jump over that line as fast as you can. And, you mentioned Dan Kennedy. Well, I'm a huge fanboy. Everything Dan Kennedy says, I pretty much take it as the gospel of truth. And I never, doubted him and never regretted that decision, because anything that this man says or says you should do, I guess, always works for me. So I'm even rereading one of his books right now. It's called the No BS Direct Marketing for Non-Direct Marketers.
Right.
I mean, even at this stage, right, we're running a multiple six-figure business, and here we are, I'm reading this book, and he's shaming me into not doing this and that and this and that. And, after reading about 40% of it, we've already implemented two things that we were doing, which is a pre-recorded message and greeting cards. So we're actually, putting the motion on it right now. So again, Dan Kennedy, no matter at which point, at which stage of development you're in your business, get all the books, read them, and implement them.
It's really interesting. I didn't know that you'd done those extra bits. And there's a lot of people out there selling traffic, and it just basically is they put their message in Facebook and they just sell it cheap as chips. Whereas if you can position yourself and do something different with the traffic and treat it differently and nurture it and build a relationship with those people rather than just keep on hitting them with sort of message after message. But also as well, for any business, not just the traffic business, but to do something different. And very often, I worked offline for a long time. I worked with sort of 3 large companies here in the UK, and you go in and you try and help people in their business. The number of times you'd hear, well, that won't work in my business, or my customers won't like that, or that's not the kind of thing my customers would like. But every business is the same. If you do something just that bit different and treat people differently and put those extra little bits in, you'll see those results. And obviously, you're the most successful traffic vendor online today, so you can testify to
that. Let me say, most business really estimate, or should I say overestimate, their customers' ability to take in advertising and their patience as far as like what will they suffer, through or whatever. Like, I don't even see our advertising as something I see as an entertaining thing where, they get value out of. Even if they don't buy it, they still get value out of advertising. And yeah, I believe that if you are crippled by this belief that your business is different, you're seriously limiting yourself. Not only that, you're not just limiting yourself, you're killing your business, I would say. Because that means you're not writing the best copy you could be writing. You're not putting out the best offers you could be putting out. You're not communicating with your customers as often as you possibly can. And I've seen this time and time again. I've seen people fall victim to this. I got one of my best buddies here in my hometown. It's a pretty small town. It's about 30,000 people. Out of those, there's about maybe 15,000 Russians, right? I'm Russian, Ukrainian, Russian, whatever. It's the same thing. So my buddy runs this grocery store for Russians. It's like where they sell all the Russian stuff, basically. And so, he's got 3 main competitors, and they all connect and talk to each other, and they all do the same thing. They all sell at the same price. They all got the same merchandise. And I was like, wait a second, why are you like talking to your competitors and like agreeing to sell at certain prices and stuff? It's like, well, because he can, if we don't, then this other guy, he will lower his prices and he will drive the prices down, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, but you don't have to play that game if you differentiate yourself and do something different. So, after 6 months of me constantly hammering this home with him, he started doing Facebook advertising. Nobody out of his surroundings, nobody in his competitors or whatever is doing Facebook ads. And what he's doing is it's a grocery store, so he sells meat and all sorts of like pastrama's and sausages and like a bunch of stuff, and pretty much everything. So now he's launching Facebook ads campaigns where he's driving traffic to a Facebook video where he is cooking, basically, right? And so the most recent one was where he's doing something that's called a kasitsa, which is basically taking this rectangular piece of pork about this thick and turning it into this, oh man, I don't know what you even call this thing. It's like when you got long hair.
Oh yeah, like a braid.
Yes, a braid. So he turns it into a braid, and he smears it with some special sauce that he prepares, like, again, in the video, and basically says, so, this is it, and if you want a ready-made one, it's already available in our store. Come in. And so people come in, they grab the ready-made one because nobody wants to spend, 10 or 15 minutes cutting this thing and braiding it, right?
Yeah.
And as they come in to get the meat, they get the spices, they get the drinks, they get the vodka, they get this thing and that and this and that. All of a sudden, his average customer value is bumped by 20% of just one video. I mean, that's incredible. And it's just one thing he's doing. So, but that is way, way out there, right? That's way out there compared to what his competitors are willing to do, because the most his competitor, the biggest one that has ever done, is started the Facebook fan page and posted, pictures of pretty food on it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. Again, we both sort of read a lot of books, etc. And in fact, I have sort of Ready, Fire, Aim sort of sat here right next to me actually at the minute. But it's interesting that I think a lot of people that start businesses, whether they're online or whether they're off, they never make one thing their priority, and the one thing really that should be their priority is selling. He's actually doing some marketing and actually selling. They're very happy to mess around in the background and do nice little bits and pieces and fiddle with this and make that look pretty. So in the store, they'd be there with the merchandise, and eye level, level? Eye level is buy level, and doing this and putting that there. Whereas actually, doing some marketing and doing some selling and positioning yourself different. That's how you bring people in and ultimately increase the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really happens unless there's a sale. I mean, you can't pay the bills, you can't pay your employees, you can't pay the...
Okay, so as ever, the curtain is coming down on that interview around about the 20-minute mark, and I think you'll agree already, Igor has already shared some great stuff, but that's nothing compared to what is going to be shared in the rest of the interview. He really, really over-delivers. We had a great conversation, and when we came off the call, he just said to me, he said, that was just like having a chat with a mate. He said the amount of stuff that we shared and what we went through, so he was just so pleased with how it went, and so was I. And if you want to be able to see the rest of that interview for free, all you need to do is get inside of our Facebook group. So if you go to solopreneurshow.com/Igor Kheifets, you will be able to get inside of the Facebook group. Or if you don't know how to spell Igor Kheifets, if you're watching this somewhere that you haven't seen his name, just go to the solopreneurshow.com and you'll be able to get yourself inside. So this interview was an amazing experience for me. Igor and I have been friends for a long time. I really hope it's an amazing experience for you as well. So, if you want to hear the rest of it, get yourself inside the group, and we will, we'll see you very, very soon. All right. So, take care. Have a great weekend, and just, keep on being awesome. Cheers. Bye now.
To get your hands on more great business training and advice, plus the chance to join our free Facebook group where you will see extended guest interviews, the opportunity of free one-to-one coaching, and behind-the-scenes access to Anthony, go to www.thesolopreneurshow.com and join us today.